When we first started this conference, one of the things that I was told right off the bat is brands and agencies are it. It's where the money is in mobile. If you don't get these guys on stage, you're crazy. And then I was told that there was one crazy guy that I needed to get on, and it was Bonin.
Oh, wow.
And then when I learned about what Carnival Labs had done, I was kind of blown away. And so, Guy, you guys actually put this together, and I wanted to give you guys a little bit of time to explain what exactly is Oreo Twist Dunk and why is it important?
Well, first of all, hello everybody, how are you? Good? Come on! Yeah! Come on. We need some excitement.
End of the day.
Feed off of this excitement. I'm actually going to let Guy talk about what it is. How's that?
In my country, they call that a hospital pass. It's a pass over the responsibility. My name's Guy. I run a company called Carnival. We started working with Bonin, and the biggest thing we sort of found over the last couple of years, we've worked with about 100 brands in the US, even though we're based in New Zealand. And we just sort of found most of them are not doing a very good job. They're getting really poor results in terms of how much they're spending in mobile, whether it's building things with agencies or buying ads. And so when we started talking with Bonin about this, we had kind of a radical idea, which was we wanted to make the first cash positive advertising campaign on mobile. And we said, look, you've been selling Oreo cookies for 100 years. Why don't we sell virtual Oreo cookies? Which we all sat around and were like, well, why the hell would anyone buy a virtual Oreo cookie? So we started thinking about that a bit more and came up with this sort of concept around casual gaming and trying to make the first cash positive game. And I suppose that's sort of how it started. So I think a lot of the brands are approaching the whole thing the wrong way. Instead of saying, hey, you know, if you're a consumer product good, you know, it's harder to do a utility app like Nike Plus or Oreo. So they really need to make really good quality entertainment, quality games, quality content, and then feed their brand into that. And that's kind of how this came about.
Yeah, no, I mean, so basically we had an ethos. When I came in, I was looking at what Red Bull was doing, and I was like, man, we are just as smart as Red Bull. There's no way that Red Bull Media House, which has a cash positive media business. So if you look at Stratos, they push this guy out after $20 million in 5 years, and they turn around and they sell it to National Geographic and BBC. You can't even buy ads on BBC, and they sold a program that was basically an hour-long commercial that they basically made money off of that sat on the BBC and National Geographic. And so the ethos was, how can we begin to create media that we can actually monetize? And so we needed a test pilot, and so Oreo Twist Lick and Dunk became kind of that test pilot. And I think the biggest thing and the most important thing was we were very focused on all we care about is that the cookie looks like the cookie. So here's the Oreo asset, right? And that the ritual, which was Twist Lick and Dunk. After that, you guys do what you do to monetize it. We'll take a revenue share from it. But it was super important to let them have the freedom to actually go create what actually works. So I think the difference is just to give you an example, at the same time, another brand worked with an agency and paid 7 times what we did for the Twist Lick and Dunk app, and they got 23,000 downloads. So we have 3.2 million downloads. We have 50,000 daily active uniques, 200,000 peak on our peak. We're going to be cash positive in the next month, or in the next couple months, and the platform is on fire right now. And so, again, I think it points to, and I was so adamant, I said, please, let's not work with the agency on this, trust me on this one. And the agent, no, we get it, we understand. I was like, you don't, let's go to somebody who actually does this for a living. And so that's what we did, and that's why we're having the results that we're having.
Yeah, I think some of the big figures when we delivered the result and it started sort of really blowing up and going #1 in many countries and that kind of thing. We came back with a lot of the metrics, and I think the brand, some of the guys at the brand couldn't really comprehend what they were, and so we said, look, you know, we've had 2 billion Oreos dunked in this game, and we've had, you know, 90 million minutes spent in this game, and they're like, wow, that's a really big number, but what does it mean? And so we started referring it back to things that they understand, which is like sharing and social likes and YouTube, and you know, the last 8 years on YouTube on Oreo's channel, they've had around 18 million average 30-second slots viewed on their channel, and this one app has had 180 million equivalent 30-second spots. So, just with this one thing, we've started to outperform all the social channels combined, which is pretty powerful. And then I think once you've got that big asset, it's how do you tap into it. So I think the cool thing was Bonin got a lot of press around their recent Cannes win with the dunk in the dark tweet over the Super Bowl. And they came to us like a couple of days before, and they were like, can we do something on mobile to activate this wicked audience we've got? And so at the same time as they were doing the tweet, we pushed out a limited edition Super Bowl Oreo cookie. We ran a voting cookie versus cream poll that linked into their Super Bowl ad. And it took us about 5 hours to set up the mobile component of that compared to months of preparation on the social side. And those 5 hours delivered, a massive, result, which was about 70% increase in daily active users from 5 hours work. So I think what we're seeing is, especially with Bonin and what he's trying to do with Mondelēz is, these brands are starting to get a little bit more data savvy, more sophisticated techniques, and they're starting to expect more from their spend. It's not throwing $1 million into a pot and you get 50,000 downloads, which is unacceptable.
Unacceptable. In fact, those folks should be tarred and feathered. But let me just paint a picture for you. So we have an app that you basically open up, and it opens up and it's Oreo. So it basically is an ad for all intents and purposes. Then you swipe. So the most important thing for us is the ritual, twist, lick, and dunk. You actually twist, lick, and you dunk it into milk. So you go through all of this. And so if that's not enough, we also then run advertisements in it. And so we're monetizing an ad already with other ads, which is insanity. But because the quality of the game is so good, people want to play the game. And then people are buying virtual Oreo cookies. So there are people across the world who the only Oreo they might have bought in their life is a virtual Oreo that they bought in this twist, lick, and dunk game. And if I told you what the price tag was, you would be amazed that we've been able to pull this off. And so what's so exciting for me, though, is what's the future of that? How do we grow this? Because when I look at Rovio, I love Rovio. I love Cut the Rope here. I love you. But I got a brand that's 100 years old, and I have a ton of these brands. There's no reason why I don't have as many users as you do. But the difference is that I'm not trying to build. We traditionally approach this trying to build an advertisement versus trying to build a really great experience. And most importantly, we talk about this behind the scenes, is going to the people who actually do that for a living. Now imagine a contractor being like, yeah, I'm gonna build your house, I'm gonna have the plumber do the electricity, is that okay? No, it's not okay. I want an electrician to wire my house, not a plumber. So we choose to go to the folks that actually do this for a living.
So is this, in loaded question, maybe I'll smoke bomb when I'm done. Does this mean like banner ads are kind of obsolete? I mean, because the engagement that you get from your own applications versus the old like thumbnail banners that we all never notice. I mean, it's just vastly different. It seems extremely less expensive. Like, where does this put like the traditional advertising companies? And we're queuing it up for you, Brian. I know you want to talk. So where does this come from a branding perspective? I mean, the ROI difference in your own opinion?
Yeah, so I mean, in the previous panel that I did, I'm not against banner ads. First of all, banner ads are fueling this app that we're building. So all the folks that are buying reach-based banners, please buy more of them in the Oreo game. I have no problem. I think the biggest, the most important point though, is knowing what your business objectives are and using the technology to meet that. So for us, we have 4 core pillars. So basically, we've agreed to move, we're focusing on moving 10% of all of our media. So I look over global media, TV, print, and digital globally. So moving 10% of all of our media, not just digital, into mobile. But we have 4 very distinct pillars. One is video equivalency. We know that there's a lot of video reach being eaten up in this thing that we don't have visibility to, we don't have equivalent pricing, we don't even see it as an equal screen. So how do we get to seeing it as an equal screen? The second piece is going after that second screen engagement. I know that when I run digital and TV together that I see twice the effectiveness of my television spot. The more deliberate I get, like Oreo Super Bowl, the greater I'm able to increase that. So while TV engagement is decreasing, this device alone can help transform that huge investment. So that's big. The next is impulse, and then the next is in-store, which is loyalty. So the impulse and loyalty is the places where you're going to see more of the banner stuff. And I can tell you now that if I target somebody in store with an equity message or an offer, I can drive into, even on just equity, I can drive 22 to 32% increase in sales in that store. using banners. That's ridiculous to me. I've never seen that. Or if I target you with proximity and I hit you with a message and suggest that you go make an impulse purchase like gum, right? Then I can see dramatic lift into convenience. So it all depends on what you're using it for, to be perfectly honest with you. Now I think the folks that are looking at it purely as a reach medium are taking a very old model and putting it onto a device that has a bigger opportunity.
So with this, I mean, this is really kind of the first, event of its kind, saying, cash flow positive campaign and stuff like that. And I have no idea how your CFO is dealing with that. I bet he has a huge headache. So how do you see, why are your competitors not doing this? Why are they not, jumping on board on this bandwagon? And where do you see, this type of technology moving, the CPG industry and all these big brands and different things like that?
Wow. The funny thing is that this is an old model. So there were 3 companies that got into things called soap operas, right? 2 major companies that got into things called soap operas when this thing called television was super new. And guess what? They built shows, they funded shows so that they could run their ads on it to give quality content. Until this day, they still get revenue share on it. So this is not like a totally new model. I think the challenge is that we're trying to use old school tools, old school organizations, old school agencies to deliver in a world where they don't necessarily have the expertise. And so what we tried to do is I wanted to find a gaming company with Carnival that actually we could put skin in the game, where they have a dramatic upside opportunity. And I actually think we're doing a disservice to our agencies, quite frankly, because they don't get an upside. It's literally just, A, we're doing a disservice to us because we're not getting the best because we're not giving them an upside. B, if it fails, we don't have any retribution. Here, though, we found a partner where we have an opportunity where they have as big of an opportunity as we do. And that's why it's working.
And what are some of the other, what are some of the past application metrics that you could share with us versus the one that you have today?
Nothing. 23,000, 55,000 spends that are easily 7, 8x what this is. I mean, you can look at big CPG's entire mobile app portfolio, and I mean, we're talking, So I'm talking about a $1.4 million spend, and I'm saying that we spend 7x less than that. So you can do the math and figure out what that number is, and we have bigger downloads than some of their entire portfolios. I mean, and they're spending well north of that.
And you can see it, like you look at the other biggest brands in the world, without naming names. You can go on the App Store. They've got like 70 apps for the biggest drink in the world. And you can tell from the ratings that probably had 4 or 5 million downloads across 70 apps across all their countries, and they've been spending millions on it. So these guys are just, I'm not sure if it's the agencies are sort of putting it up, and it's kind of like the Emperor's New Clothes, where the brand's running around naked, and the agency's like, yeah, you look great, and it's like, you're naked, you've got no users, So I think like that's kind of how I view it. It's crazy. The start of the App Store, our background was in Jailbreak. We launched the first iPhone app company, Polar Farm. When we launched the first apps for brands, it was a gold rush. It was Kevin Costner's Field of Dreams. It was build an app and users will come. And now it's so hard to win. So I think that's what's even cooler when you see a good brand partnered with like a really, really quality app. You sort of get that magic, but just throwing a good brand out like a Coca-Cola or whatever, Nike on a crap app, no one comes. And we've seen it a lot of times with big movie companies that put it out and they get like 3,000 downloads on a 100, 200.
But it also requires you to not take the same approach. So the challenge is a lot of our agents want to creatively control it and want to do it. And the beauty about working with, the production studios that are doing this for a living, they're looking at numbers and saying, look, I got a 40 million person base. I launched a good game. Okay, it's not going enough. I have to add. It's not about controlling. It's about building a real business out of it. And that's just a totally different mindset.